going to give you the top 5 methods that you can use to improve your recovery as an athlete, and we're going to start right now. So recently we went over that overtraining syndrome and what athletes deal with when they feel overtrained. And there's a lot of different types of recovery that we have to factor in when we're thinking about recovering as an athlete, and even when we're thinking about recovering as a fitness enthusiast. So there's the physical adaptation, right? There's a lot of stress that you put your body under. You might be doing, assault bike work. You might be lifting heavy. You might be doing hypertrophy work. All these things will lead to that physical adaptation. So we have to focus on recovery. That leads us into mobility. We might have some problem areas. We might have some joints that are struggling to adapt. We might have some joints that might have previous issues that have scar tissue built up that we have to improve upon. So we have to factor in mobility. Then that takes us into that mental aspect. Athletes especially are dealing with mundane training. They're doing the same thing over and over and over again. There's a lot of pressure on them. There's a lot of different things that they have to balance. And especially if you're not in a high profile sport, you really have to balance things like external stress in life and how to handle training as a world-class athlete, or even as an athlete just coming up through the ranks in high school. And then that takes us into the nutritional aspect. If we think about recovering nutritionally and how nutrition has a positive impact on joint integrity, on our mental outlook on life, on our mobility in general, now we can start to weigh the fact that nutritional aspects can really impact multiple different spheres of recovery, and that's essentially where we need to go with all these methods. But we're going to give you those top 5 methods that you can use to improve your overall recovery. That first key tip is going to be executing 10 to 20 minutes of yoga 5 times a week. And I can hear all the meatheads out there groaning and moaning and thinking about turning into a patchouli smelling hipster granola eating lover. We have to embrace yoga. If you're a big dude, you need yoga the most, and there's a couple different reasons why. First, it drastically improves our mobility, and when our mobility improves, now we can lengthen the muscle belly, and in turn, lengthening is strengthening. So we start to learn how to handle different positions in deeper ranges of motion, and that can lead to greater sports performance. Another key concept, it helps us be a little bit more in touch with how we're feeling in certain positions, and then we can take that information into our warm-ups. Now we can start to mobilize a little bit more effectively based off of how we're feeling while we're doing yoga. And then finally, we're talking about the mental aspect, right? Think about the overtraining syndrome. Almost all of the overtraining syndrome relates back to mental focus and mental adaptation. What yoga does is it forces you to disconnect from the digital world, and it forces you to embrace internally who you are, and you start to have that self-reflection time, and it enables you to almost get into that meditative state. So use yoga 4 to 5 days a week for just 10 to 20 minutes. That's not even that much time, and that's going to help you improve your overall recovery. And yoga takes us into that second key aspect of recovery, and that's going to be meditation or quiet sitting or prayer. So if you're religious, it's going to be prayer. If you're more focused on a specific type of philosophy or spiritual awakening, meditation. If you're more focused on just general disconnection, call it quiet sitting. Call it whatever you want, but separate yourself, sit quietly, try to hollow out your mind. Now, a lot of you might be thinking about the Dalai Lama sitting crisscross, chanting Om, and having incense smoking all over the room. And if you want to do that, go ahead. If you don't want to do that, I recommend finding a place that you can turn the lights off, you can block out all external noise, you turn off all of your electronics, your cell phone, your TV, your computer, and you have to sit for 30 minutes. It's way harder than people actually think. The first 10 to 15 minutes, your thoughts are going to be bouncing all over the place. And then as you gain control and you have that specific intent, now you start to control your cognitive function, you start to control your cognitive ability, and you can really quiet those thoughts. So some people really like to meditate prior to training, maybe an hour and a half prior to training. Some people like to meditate early in the morning when they first wake up to zero themselves in. Others might like to do it post-workout or even during their workout workout. They might like to visualize first and then meditate and then help with their recovery post-workout. So I recommend trying to figure out how you can engage with meditation 4 to 5 days a week, 30 minutes. It's going to drastically improve your mental adaptation. That third key tip to improve your recovery is simple. It's called sleep. Please get to bed. This is another classic. We've got some of the best athletes in the world and it's, hey, how'd you sleep? That's okay. And then I hear them talking about doing the new group game where they drop into these certain areas. Why can I not think of the name right now of that video game? But they're playing till 1, 2 in the morning and then they have to wake up at 7:30 to go to work and then they're exhausted, okay? This is reality. This is what a lot of people are dealing with. Prioritize your sleep, okay? If you are someone who maybe you do meditate before bed, what you can do is an hour out from bed, that's when you flip the switch. Literally, that's when you're trying to quiet your brain. So maybe you spend 30 minutes of meditation, and if you're religious, you meditate for 30 minutes, and then you do 10 minutes of prayer, and then you're unwinding and you're preparing for bed. You're getting ready to go to bed. Your bedroom should be about 65 degrees. You know, you've already brushed your teeth. You've gone through that nighttime ritual. You have blackout curtains, and ideally, you don't have any electronics near your bed except for your cell phone on the other side of the room, and that might be your alarm clock. Now, one big key that a lot of us are missing regarding sleep hygiene is that we're not seeing sunlight earlier in the day. I recommend around 7 to 8 o'clock in the morning, you get outside and you see the sun for 30 minutes. That's gonna help set your circadian rhythm, and in turn, your sleep's gonna be better. We wanna get exposed to sunlight early in the day, and then again around noon, if you want to recover as well as possible. 8 to 10 hours of sleep, and then around the middle of the day, you can get 15 to 30 minutes of a nap, and that's gonna dramatically improve your overall recovery. That fourth key tip is gonna be based around the fact if you have access to this tool, that tool is going to be a sauna. I recommend a traditional sauna. We have a full spectrum here at Garage Strength. You can use far infrared or near infrared depending on what you believe is best. I think traditional is just fine. And I think most of the research out there is going to show you if you do the sauna for 4 to 5 days a week at 170 degrees Fahrenheit for about 20 to 30 minutes each time that you go in there, you're going to notice a drastic improvement in your recovery and your overall well-being. Now, this is because it stimulates something called heat shock proteins. It's going to enhance our sensitivity to heat, and it's even going to improve mitochondrial volume. Okay, so if we can see the volume of mitochondria increase, then as we start to improve our endurance, then we can start to use sprint interval training to enhance our mitochondrial respiration. So using the sauna can improve our endurance, it can improve our ability to recover, and don't forget, we can disconnect during this time. Put your cell phone somewhere else. Maybe once in a while you listen to a podcast or something along those lines, but I recommend just going into the sauna and chilling out. Use this to improve your ability to quiet sit or to meditate, and it's going to lead to not only physical recovery, but also that mental recovery. Now, that fifth key concept is something that a lot of coaches take for granted, and they believe that their athletes are doing everything that they should be doing, but in reality, they're not. This is going to be nutritional improvement. And what I want to do is just provide basic guidelines for nutrition. So what's some basic guidelines? First, understand macros: carbs, fats, alcohol, and protein. Okay, so what we want to look at then is we want to try to get 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. This could be from plant protein, this could be from animal-based protein. You can use supplements like whey protein. These are all fine ways to improve your protein consumption. Then that next step that I recommend, try to get a fair amount of carbohydrates, specifically microbiota accessible carbohydrates. These are carbohydrates that are going to be digested in your colon, and in turn, they're going to help you have more lean muscle mass. You're going to feel better with digestion, and typically this is going to be found from sources that are high in fiber. One rule of thumb for carbohydrate consumption could start at 1.5 grams of carbohydrates to 2 grams of carbohydrates per pound of body weight. This is a good baseline, and then factor in if you have to cut for a weight class, make sure that you're not overeating, because you could lead to having excess mass and not being able to make that weight class. So just make sure you're prioritizing your actual nutritional improvements. Focus on the protein, focus on the carbohydrates, make sure the carbohydrate source is flourishing, it's filled with microbiota accessible carbohydrates, and that's gonna improve your overall recovery. So we discussed the types of adaptation that we need to the stimulus provided by training, right? We went over the fact that we need to enhance our nutrition. We went over the fact that we need to improve our joint integrity and we need to improve our mental state of well-being. We provided some nutritional baseline things that you can use. We went through all of those key factors around yoga, around meditation, around sauna, around improving your sleep. Now you can take these and apply it to your own training and to your own recovery. So one of those questions we got once I mentioned microbiota accessible carbohydrates was, where can I get those microbiota accessible carbohydrates? Where can I source my fiber to make sure that I'm still getting enough carbohydrates? And fortunately, we put together a free download. You can click on the link down below. You can go over to garagestrength.com, enter in your email address, and you're gonna get a free fiber-based download. This is the fiber scheme that I use, the foods specific to me that I eat. You know, specific beans, kiwi, all of these things, the amount that I eat, so that I can make sure that my fiber consumption is around 60 to 70 grams a day. If you need help with your nutrition, that's one of the areas that a lot of elite athletes actually struggle with. We've got our high performance nutrition that you can click on the link down below in the description. Head over to garagestrength.com. You can pick that up today to help you enhance your recovery and feel better on a day-to-day basis. And remember, freaks, if you want to become a champion, you've always got to cultivate your power. Peace.